with news that the Pittsburgh Steelers will probably not be trading for Jonnu Smith. Has a Jonnu Smith trade come off the table for the Miami Dolphins? Mike McDaniel had some interesting things to say regarding the situation. We'll discuss that. Plus, he also addressed the Ramsey situation, so we'll go over that. Plus, we'll have updates from today's Day 5 OTA practice where Tua played well in the rain, the backup struggled, Jalen Wright flashed, and it seems an edge rusher I've been telling y'all to watch out for seems to be rising as a sleeper. We'll talk about it all. Do me the favor, smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new, and as always, let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score!
Field down the near side, man open, touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep! He's got it for the touchdown again!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan.
Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We're back here for another one. Appreciate all y'all coming in as we have Day 5 of OTAs. And, well, some of the media was out there, so we will discuss that. I got to address this because I see it in the chat already. And, and I've said this before, all right? Listen, guys, we've won how many off seasons in a row? We've won the Super Bowl in the off season, it seems, almost every year, all right? Gets our hopes up. They end up falling in their face in December. Rinse and repeat, all right? I think the draft was a W. I think the schedule was a W. I don't think the Jonnu situation's a W. But it hasn't been a plus offseason. It hasn't been, oh my God, here we go. It's funny. Look at the fan base, right? Coming off of 2023, we all knew the injuries halted us at the end there. And, as well as coaching and some play from certain players ended up costing us in the end there in 2023. People forget, going into that Ravens game, we were fighting for the number 1 seed in the AFC. Not just the East, the AFC. All right? We win that game. Remember, Tua was in the MVP conversation. We win that game. Tua's still in the MVP conversation. And guess what? We're going into Buffalo. We've got everything locked up. We don't even need to play that game. But alas, here we are. My point to all of this is this, all right? They've had great off seasons, and every year we've said, all right, here we go. They're going to make progress in the playoffs, and they haven't. So every year we've been under the impression they would, they haven't. This year, a lot of you are under the impression that they won't, so maybe they will. That's all I'm saying. Let football play out a little bit here, okay? That's all I'm saying here. Shout out to Knight for gifting a membership to Kristen Reinhardt. That's all I'm going to sit here and say. Listen, you want to be pessimistic? Knock yourself out. But let them play a few games before you're ready to jump off a bridge, right? That's my whole point here, all right? Do we all have high expectations like we've had in previous off seasons? No, we do not have those high expectations. I think I can speak for the general fan base right now. So, but what I'm sitting here and saying is, relax, take a deep breath. Let the offseason and continue to play out. Let training camp play out. Let the first couple games play out and then see. Now, hey, you want to sit here and predict they're going to win 6 to 8 games, 6, 7, 4 games? Knock yourself out. But what I'm saying is don't have that jump off a bridge mentality of don't be so certain they're going to be crap until they show you that they're crap. Because all I'm sitting here saying is we've been under the impression when they keep winning the offseason that they're going to be something and they end up letting us all down. Well, now they've done the opposite, right? None of you guys are throwing parades or celebrating over this offseason so far. So, and I've said this, for the last couple months, maybe things go the opposite way. You never know. You never know. So that's all I'm sitting here saying. That's all I'm going to say about the situation. You never know what's going to happen. Football needs to be played. Injuries could happen to other teams that could open doors for the Miami Dolphins and other teams. But you don't know what's going to happen yet. Let's let it play out before we decide that this season is a wrap. That's my only point, really. So, I had to get that out of the way. I had to say that. I think people are being a little bit extreme for June 3rd. We still don't even know, they still could add to the secondary, right? We don't know what's happening now right now. I mean, we'll talk about this on my show with Brendan Tobin. Secondary not looking so hot. But, and I'm not even saying trust the process. I'm saying let it play out a little bit here. All right? Because every time we thought things have gone their way, come December, January, they don't. This year, we're thinking things aren't going our way. Maybe come January and December, they finally do. I don't know. All right. So, and I believe it was Elpad in the chat. I think it was Elpad. Elpad made a good point. Let me see if I can find it here. Pretty sure he said, this team hasn't finished under 8 wins in 5 years. Yeah, right there. This team hasn't won less than 8 games in 5 years. This is not a story I've seen recently. So, I guess keep that in mind. In the O-line depth. The O-line stays healthy. I'm not worried about the O-line depth. In the secondary, listen, I've said this. I think the safety room is going to be better than people think, but I think if they stay healthy, but I think the corner room is obviously where the questions are. But at the end of the day, if you go look at the back half of last year, they really liked what they saw from Kader Kohou out on the boundary, and I've been saying this, you get the feeling that there's going to be much more boundary reps for him. So, you just got to let it play out a little bit. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Now, I say let it play out. Training camp happens and a bunch of injuries happen. Knock on wood. Okay. All right. Let's start looking at the bridge, right? Let's start picking out the bridge we're going to jump off. But that hasn't happened yet, right? They've still got, they've got till the beginning of September to add to that to the secondary. They've got till September to add another corner. Let it play out is what I'm saying with it. I'm not saying trust the process. I'm saying let it play out, man. It's June 3rd. It's way too early to jump off a bridge or declare yourself a Super Bowl winner unless you're one of the 4 returning teams that went to the AFC or NFC championship. That's the reality of the situation. Unless you're a team that went to the AFC or NFC championship, it's too early to call yourself a surefire bet for the Super Bowl. Just like it's too early to call yourself a surefire bust. So, especially when you look at the roster. We've still got a lot of talent on this roster. It's not like this roster is depleted and it's bare bones and it's like 2019 all over again. All right? So, we still got talent on this roster. So, let's pump the brakes a little bit and let's let this offseason play out just a little bit. And then let's let training camp and at least the first 4 games play out. I mean, what are you guys going to say if oh, let's jump off a bridge. Oh, this team's crap. Oh, we're going to be a bust. Then they come out and they beat the Colts. They beat the Patriots. And then what are you going to say if they go into Buffalo and we get the Tua we got last year in Buffalo, or the Tua we got in 2022 in Buffalo, but now the defense and the special teams actually shows up because Ackerman's in charge of the special teams, and we got a new punter in Stonehouse, and good old boy Weaver, who you know I'm really high on. If things don't work out with McDaniel, you know I want to give Weaver a shot at interim head coach this year. The defense is starting to come into his vision. You know, I'm not going to even say trust the process, but I'm going to say this. Weaver's done enough in 1 year for me to trust him. So that's where. Now, I got major trust issues with McDaniel that I don't have with Anthony Weaver. I'll be the first to admit that. All right? So, and I think a lot of people in this fan base would back that sentiment, right? So, I'm just saying, let it play out, man. Let's not be, I think we should have learned over the last couple of years, let's not be extreme on either side. Because all that has done is led to disappointment. And I've said this all offseason, man. Keep your expectations low. That way, hey, if they do show up and show out, you'll be pleasantly surprised. So this is the first offseason in quite some time where our expectations haven't been through the roof, right? They're more like down here right now. So just let it play out, man. Speak them facts. Reason, love this show. Appreciate you, George. I'm not even trying to like sell hopium or something. I'm just trying to, let's be, funny enough, reasonable. That's all I'm saying. So, let's go. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. All right? And I don't think this is not a write-off year. If this was a write-off year, Jonnu would be traded. Tyreek would be traded no matter the dead cap hit. And they'd start moving more pieces out of here. You guys got to remember, every offseason, every team resets. It's just how big is that reset? I don't think we're in a soft rebuild. I don't think we're in a rebuild. I think every team resets in the offseason because you lose free agents. So you have to fill those voids. And what is that? That's resetting at certain positions. That's resetting at certain units. Now, we upgraded linebacker. We massively upgraded our front seven. You say what you want. We upgraded the offensive line. We upgraded the depth at wide receiver. Added Ollie Gordon and Alexander Madison. Upgraded the depth at running back. So, you know, really, let's be honest here. The question is how the cornerback room is going to shape up. And, you know, I know a lot of us aren't overly thrilled about the depth at offensive line, but if these guys stay healthy, we're good. Now, history tells us Austin Jackson's probably not going to stay healthy, but you see my point. At least we're not going into this season with Robert Jones and Liam Eichenberg starting on the offensive line. They learned their lesson there. Right? Bringing in Nick Westbrook. And yeah, we upgraded linebackers. Look at that. We have a better linebacker group this year heading into the season than we did heading into 2023. KJ Britt and Willie Gay are better depth pieces than what we had last year. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. I'm sorry. Right? And now Tyrell Dodson gets a full off season with us, et cetera, and a second season with us. So, yeah, I do believe we upgraded at linebacker 110%. 110%. Our depth at linebacker is far better than what it was. Remember, our opening day line was what? David Long Jr., Jordan Brooks, Anthony Walker, Duke Riley, and Channing Tindall. David Long was not a fit. Anthony Walker was not good. Duke Riley, thank God we finally moved off of him. And now it's Jordan Brooks, Tyrell Dodson, Willie Gay Jr., KJ Britt, Eugene Asante, and Channing Tindall. Yeah, our linebacker group is better. So, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy with our linebacker group. You would now if Dre Greenlaw could have stayed healthy, and you would have added him. Oh boy. So, but yeah, all right. Now let's get into everything from today, and let's start off with Jonnu Smith. Here it is in black and white. Let's check this out. So, Adam Schefter this morning, he tweeted out, sources. Former Bills and Jags wide receiver Gabe Davis is scheduled to travel to Pittsburgh on Wednesday to visit the Steelers on Thursday. Pittsburgh has been seeking additional receiving help and has inquired about, but is not expected to trade for, Miami tight end Jonnu Smith. I mean, I told you guys, I theorized, are they sending a message? Do they understand they have all the leverage and he wants to be here? And is this, and did they, as soon as I saw it and I set it up here, clearly the Dolphins wanted that out there, that they had talked to the Pittsburgh Steelers about a Jonnu Smith trade possibility, because it didn't come from, it came from a mainstream, insider. In terms of Rappaport and Schefter, we know the NFL passes them down stories, right? We know they can be the voice for some of these teams. And that's exactly what I think we're dealing with here. I think they wanted that out there. That was strategically put out there to shake Jonnu a little bit, being like, hey, bro, you better not be asking for nothing crazy because we're out of here. And so, I've said this before, right? You've got to find the common middle ground. All right? Jonnu Smith has the fourth most receiving yards of all tight ends over the last 2 years. Now, is he going to get into the $12 to $14 million range that like Kyle Pitts is going to be hoping to get into? That Evan Ingram and these guys are around? I don't think so. All right. But the problem is, and I've said this, okay, not only did he have a top, he had the best season for a tight end in Miami Dolphins history, but he has the 32nd highest annual average this year at $44.2 million amongst all tight ends. Brock Bowers is making more money than him. Will Dissly, Austin Hooper, Tyler Warren, who hasn't taken a snap, Tommy Tremble, Luke Farrell is making more money than him. Noah Gray in Kansas City is making more money than him. Zach Ertz, who's kind of on his last leg, is making more money than him. Colston Loveland, who hasn't played a snap, making more money than him. Colby Parkinson is making more money than him in LA. Right? Is he going to get into that? I don't think he's going to get into that Pat Freiermuth, Cole Kmet, $12 to $12.5 million range. I don't think he's going to get into the Njoku, Mark Andrews, $13.5 to $14 million range. He's certainly not getting into Hawkinson, Kelsey, $16.5 to $17.125 million range, and he's certainly not getting into $19 million range of Trey McBride and George Kittle. But I think the situation, as Knight pointed out a couple days ago, I think the ideal situation is give him Mike Gesicki's contract. 3 years, $25.5 million. Only $6.5 million of that is guaranteed, and the annual average is about $8.5 million. Let him fall right in the middle of there. If you were to give him an $8.5 million annual average, he falls in about the 17 range. right? Dawson Knox is 15 at 9.8. So if you fall him in there right at like the Mike Gesicki range at the $8.5 million, but it's all about the guaranteed money, right? Mike Gesicki and just like Mike Gesicki's contract, have an out after 1 year. I think that's fair. You're doubling the $4.2 million salary, right? You're making him about the 16th, 17th highest paid tight end. You're protecting yourself. If he doesn't have a good year on the first year of that contract, when it kicks in, you can get out after year one. If he does have a good year, those two back end years, you can play with some money a little bit. That's what, but again, we got to wait for this Jalen Ramsey situation to play out, right? When he gets traded, we're up to about just over $27 million in cap space. And then I think it's much easier for them to finagle, because I think one of the reasons they don't want to deal with that right now is they're trying to figure out if they can add another corner to that room. That's what I think. I think they want to figure out Ramsey and a potential another tight end addition, and then I could see Jonnu being taken care of. But like, let's. I'm gonna play this clip. If you saw, I don't know why. If you go to McDaniel's availability, some of his answering about Jonnu Smith has been clipped out. Read into that however you want to read into it. I don't know why, but they've clipped out some of the stuff. And one of the parts they clipped out was McDaniel saying, I want Jonnu here. So let me play that clip for you, and you can hear what McDaniel said, and then we can go from there. All right?
Erroneous, my feelings, my hope, and I guess I haven't really considered anything other than I want Jonnu on the team. I think he wants to be here, and so my experience with business is you let that play out, and in that time, Jonnu's depending on me to focus on the players that I have the ability to coach and influence.
So I mean, you say he literally comes out there and says he wants Jonnu here. And that matters. I'm telling you, that matters, right? Tyreek and Tua, how did they get paid last year? Brandon Shore didn't want to do it. McDaniel wanted it done. McDaniel went over Brandon Shore to Ross. Got done. I'm telling you, McDaniel, and you know how Greer operates, right? Coaches give the grocery list. He goes out and gets the groceries for them to cook with. And if McDaniel's in their ear telling them, yo, I want this guy here, what are they going to do? Now, McDaniel also said, he said, I quote, I'm not part of the negotiations. He said Smith is an important person and player. He's a professional. And like you just heard him say, he said, I haven't considered anything other than I want Jonnu on the team. I think he wants to be here. I mean, that right there is pretty much telling you, right? And then you heard Rosenhaus come out and say the Dolphins are his dream team. He wants to retire here, which I already told you I had heard when all this news broke. And like I said yesterday, find the common ground. Find the middle ground. Yes, you may want to go to more 11 personnel this year, but you don't want to lose a playmaker like Jonnu when it's going to cost you, when it's not going to break the bank. And Barry Jackson kind of doubled down on the sentiment. Look what Barry Jackson said. McDaniel wanting Jonnu here certainly carries weight in the organizational approach. And Jonnu's desire to be here as well raises hope that something could be worked out. A commitment at good money beyond this season, the last of his 2-year deal, seems reasonable. I mean, you got to ask yourself, with the Steelers coming out and Schefter reporting, they're not going to make a trade for Jonnu even though they inquired. And now you're hearing McDaniel come out and say, I want him to be here. He wants to be here. I got a feeling like they're talking and they're going to work something out. I got a feeling they're going to find a middle ground. Because remember, McDaniel told all y'all heading into 2024 what I had been saying on the Cover 4 podcast when Omar was preaching, when we were up here, when Omar was preaching Julian Hill, I was saying, nope, they need a guy who can create after the catch. They need an explosive tight end to threaten the seams, because you watch the last 4 or 6 games of 2023 and Smythe had it all day when they were taking away Tyreek and Waddle. Because what you want the focus to be is Tyreek and Waddle. And then when that stuff starts getting taken away and you got to make the defense a little bit more honest, okay, threaten them with a weapon up the seam. Because you're going to get mismatches. They're going to send a double to one side. You're going to get a mismatch. Then Jonnu's going to be able to exploit it. Right? So you want Jonnu to be exploiting defenses by design and out of necessity when Tyreek and Waddle start to be taken away by the 2 highs and the doubles. Or whether they're being pressed at the line, whatever the case may be. And like I said, with Tyreek potentially out the door next year, do you really want Jonnu gone? John Green. I already talked about this. I'm down with what Knight suggested a couple days ago. Give him Gesicki type of deal. Right? 3 years, $25.5 million. I would bump up. Okay, Gesicki got $6.5 million guaranteed. Give him 8 or 9. Bump it up a little bit. You know, give him $1.5 million, $2.5 million more guaranteed than Gesicki. Boom. Done. 16th, 17th highest annual average salary. Middle of the pack. Nailed it. He's 29. There you go. That's what I would do. If he starts asking for like 3 years, $36 million, okay, you know, let's relax here. You know, do not give $12 million a year to this guy. And like I said, just like the Gesicki, have an out after year 1 when that contract kicks in. So he's got this year left, and then have a year out after 2026. That's what I would do. So, because he's got the second year right now he's about to play on. So 2026 would technically be the first year of the new contract. Have an out after the 2026, so you're not tied to it. That's what I would do. And hey, you stack up a couple good seasons, right? 2027, we'll move up some 2028 money. Make sure you got some guarantees there, and let's roll. That's where I'm at. He's got the 32nd annual average salary at $4.2 million. You got to get that up. This is doubling that, so that shows you believe in him, but it's still far below the 12. Because remember, like, if you look at what he did, like I said, Jonnu Smith has the 4th most receiving yards over the last 2 years at tight end. He's in the range of guys making $12 to $16 million at the position. If you can get him at $8.5 million, that's a steal for me. Do that. I've been talking about this for quite some time. Me and Neil specifically have been talking about Zach Sealer for quite some time on Fin Too Deep, have we not? We've been telling you guys, I gave you 2 names that should have been taken care of. Zach Sealer and Jordan Brooks should have been taken care of. They're playing with fire with Zach Sealer. If he has another big tight end, if he has another big year, he's going to look at Christian Wilkins, and he's going to say, Christian Wilkins got all that money. He's got this injury he's not even playing for the Raiders. What am I worth? What am I worth? You got to get out ahead of that Zach Sealer deal. The last contract was very team friendly. If anyone, let's be real here. If anyone deserves to be paid on this team right now, it is, and if anyone deserves a hefty new deal, it is Zach Sealer. Let's be real here. That is one guy that you can sit here and say what you want about, they paid too early, whatever. I don't care about that. Zach Sealer's the one guy who deserves a hefty deal. He's been a team player. He's been a defensive leader. He's outperformed his contract since we got him, right? Since we picked him up. What was it, off waivers from the Ravens or whatever the case was, whenever they released him or whatever? He has continuously, year in and year out, outperformed his contract. And when everyone thought Wilkins was leaving and his numbers weren't going to dip, he said, hold my beer, watch this. And let's be real, and I said this all last year. The issue with us up front last year was if Zach Sealer or Chop Robinson weren't having a game, we were dead in the water with that front seven. Now, let's be real here. If Chop or Sealer weren't having a game last year, our front seven was pretty much dead in the water. So, I've been saying it for months. I've been saying this since January. And Neil's been right beside me up here. We've been talking about this on Fin Too Deep for months and months and months. Pay the man. Don't put us in a position where we got to sit here and watch this guy get traded too. And I'm very passionate about that. Zach Sealer deserves a contract and a decent, a good-sized contract. He's earned it. He has earned every damn penny. And if they get cheap with him, and if they lowball him, that's going to be damn near unforgivable for me. I know a lot of you flipped out when we lost Andrew Van Ginkel. Wait till if that plays out, and we lose Zach Sealer because they're pinching dollars, and they're not paying the guy who earned it, yeah, I'm going to go nuclear. I will go nuclear. That is a heart and soul player of this team. He deserves it. Most sacks by any DT in the NFL over the last 2 years. Take care of him, man. Take care of him. I want him and Grant together for at least Grant's entire rookie deal. Put that on record. Reason said he wants Sealer here for the duration at minimum of Grant's rookie deal. Hey man, it's been the one thing I started this channel before we drafted Tua, contrary to what people might tell you. We started this channel in March 2020, okay? A little over a month before we drafted Tua, okay? And I've been saying this has been my biggest gripe with Chris Grier during his whole tenure. And I've talked about this. Him, and I'll throw Shore in there, him and Shore do an awful job at projecting a player's developmental trajectory aligned with the market of said player's positions, financial trajectory. They do a terrible job of aligning those, of saying, okay, let's sign this guy right now a year early or a year and a half early because the market's going to be this for this quality of player in a year and a half, and that's going to be out of our price range. It's a terrible job. And then what do they do? Like with Robert Hunt, right? They lowballed Robert Hunt. Then they finally came with a respectable offer in October. And what did he say? Hey, we're in October. I'm going to let the season play out. And they did the same thing to Christian Wilkins. They were lowballing Christian Wilkins. They came up to a little over $22 million, came in October to him, and basically him and athletes first said, man, we gave you all off season. You're coming up to you're coming around our asking price right now, but it's too late. We see how the defensive tackle market's going. We're going to let it play out. And that's what Robert Hunt did. You came here too late. You had all off season, and we're halfway through the season. I'm going to let it play out because we're seeing how the DT market is exploding. So what does that mean? The OG market, the interior market is going to have to explode to match that. I agree. Zach Sealer does need to retire a Dolphin. 110%. Yep. 110%. Zachy Baby is amazing, bro. I love that guy. Absolute love that, man. I can't say enough things about that guy. You know, he's probably, him and Chop are probably my favorite defensive players. You know, I'm really high on Jordan Brooks, obviously. Well, you know, I was hyping the hell out of him when we got him. But yeah. Sealer, Phillips, and Chop, and obviously Kenny Grant and Jordan Brooks. Those are probably like, my top favorite defensive players on this team. So let's see how it plays out. Now, with the Jalen Ramsey situation, McDaniel was asked about the Jalen Ramsey situation, and this is what he had to say about the situation today.
I really I don't really check in on a day-to-day. Zero has changed from my end, so I let Chris work, and I'm diligently coaching.
So there you go. What does he say? On his end, nothing has changed. And this is the opposite from Jonnu, right? He wants Jonnu to be there. Jonnu wants to be there. And McDaniel, I don't think, wants Ramsey there anymore. And Ramsey doesn't want to be there. Ramsey knows how he feels about McDaniel, and McDaniel knows how Ramsey feels about him. That's it. End of story. Nothing's changed. This is not getting solved. I'm hoping this is done, in the next week, right? Because on June 10th, a week from today, mandatory minicamp starts. I don't even want to go down that path of should they or should they not fine this guy for showing up. I don't even want to hear that. I don't even want to deal with that situation. That's where I'm at. It sounds like McDaniel's over it. Sounds like McDaniel's over Ramsey. And it's just best that everyone moves on at this point. That's that. So I know people wanted an update. Everyone's asking Ramsey, what's happening? And, we went over it yesterday. There's holdups, and there's a major holdup. Now we found out what's the reasoning behind some of this financial holdup. Teams view him as a safety, as a $10 to $12 million safety, not a $21 million corner. And that's an issue. Now, I've said this. Ramsey, the problem is he wants to be paid like a corner. So, if a team comes in, brings him in, right? If a team brings him in and gives him an extension that pays him like a corner, but they say, hey, man, we want you at safety, you probably won't hear a peep about it. But if a team brings him in or wants to bring him in and they told him, hey, we want to move you at safety more. And yeah, if we're going to talk new money, we're not paying you $21 million on a new deal. I could see pushback from Athletes First and Jalen Ramsey. And we can sit here and say, hey, the film told us he looked like he was losing a step. The film showed us he was trailing much more than he had in recent memory. But then you know what they're going to do? And I told you this yesterday. They're going to go to PFF. They're going to bring up the fact he had the 10th best defensive grade. We all know what PFF is. Take it with a grain of salt. But the problem is Chris Collinsworth and these people who have advocated for PFF have normalized it by having it on Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football, and now it's a negotiation tactic. And how do I know that? I've got a really great story I know that I can't tell publicly. But just let me trust me on this one. Agents use PFF. So, yeah. I don't know. Right? It's not ideal, but it's the world we live in. So, all right. Let's keep it going here. But before we do, I just do want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that would be Clean the World. Clean the World works with over 8,300 hospitality partners to divert their soap bars and plastic amenities from landfills and recycle the collected soap into new bars. By doing so, Clean the World helps reduce population, save water, and decrease the carbon footprint of thousands of hotels globally while helping improve the lives of women, children, and communities all around the world. Since it was established in 2009, Clean the World has distributed over 80 million bars of soap. The organization has also diverted 9 million pounds of plastic amenity bottles and over 29 million pounds of total waste from landfills, and helped Clean the World Foundation provide an estimated 17 billion individual hand washes to those in need across the globe. By recycling soap and other discarded hygiene products, Clean the World saves lives with items that traditionally end up in landfills. You can donate or even volunteer to help Clean the World's cause at cleantheworld.org. That's cleantheworld.org. All right? So go show some love to Clean the World. Now, moving on. Let's get into OTAs and let's recap and go over what went down. So let's start off with Travis Wingfield and his notes for day 5 of OTAs. All right. So practice is a wrap. The defense dominated this rain-soaked session. Grayson Murphy opened up the team period by oversetting the tackle, then working back inside for the run stuff. Next play, he wins for a sack. Bradley Chubb and Willie Gay had sacks. Ife Melifanu and Eugene Asante had a pick. Jordan Brooks and Artie Burns both had tackles for losses. Zach Wilson threw the pick. Melifanu Ewers on a tipped ball for Asante, but I thought his next period was excellent as he was decisive in 7 versus 7 and fit tight windows. Legit one of the better periods I've seen from a QB not named Tua in the 6 years I've been covering practice. Threaded a hole shot up the sideline and a ball between two defenders in the middle. You know this, but he's got real easy gas when he reaches back for the fastball. He also threw a great deep shot to D. Eskridge by letting it fly early and dropping it in the bucket. AJ Henning was Wilson's favorite target. He got some nice route running chops, sinks the hips, and works back to the QB to create favorable angles. We saw his run after the catch skills that were evident in his work as a punt returner at Michigan too. Love to hear that. Jalen Wright hit what I think would have been a 70-yard touchdown. He hit a well-blocked front and then hit an extra gear at the second level to run away from the backers and the DBs. Back to the defense. Just impressed in general, but in particular with the communication and seamless connectivity. They showed different pre-snap presentations and rotations constantly, and there wasn't a single breakdown that I saw. I thought Kader Kohou was a big part of that. His leadership and professionalism is on display at every period. He steals extra reps. He's coaches guys up. Artie Burns had a similar day, and I think his combination of physicality and athleticism has been on display through 2 practices. Chop had a sack and another pressure that forced a check down. He was in the orange jersey, and from the looks of it, has steadily been that dude all spring. He racked up the pressure hurries late in the day. He has this relentless nature that kind of defies physics. Even if he goes to the ground, he can spring up to his feet and stay in pursuit. Willie's gay first step is as advertised. He puts your protection schemes in immediate peril. D. Eskridge, who made a jaw-dropping one-handed catch last week, caught the ball very cleanly in bad weather. He had a catch against Bonner where Ethan was all over him. Ethan had great coverage later on a ball from Tua to Tanner Connor. Connor made a handful of plays today. I really enjoyed watching Patrick McMorris practice. He trusts his eyes and goes. I noticed on one rep where the ball was incomplete to the other side of the field, he ran it down and picked it up. Then I noticed he always does this. If you train to run to the ball always, you'll run to the ball always. Next week, 3 open practices, and then it's bon voyage until training camp. So go check out Travis's podcast tonight. He does great stuff, man. If you're not following Travis, what are you doing? Best in the business, man. Him and Kyle, 2 of the best in the business. So, Grayson Murphy. I've been, when we did the starting lineup and we did players to keep an eye on OTAs, Grayson Murphy was the one that I talked about. Remember when Grayson Murphy came out last year and we got him as a UDFA, he had the highest pressure rate in the FBS. Right now, he got hurt last year, and I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm hearing about Grayson Murphy. I think this is a sleeper. This is a guy. Listen, we're hearing about Grayson Murphy. We're not hearing about Mo Kamara. That's gotta, I'm noticing that right away. But, man, I like this. Guys know I'm high on Grayson Murphy. And another guy who I'm high on, who I wasn't high on last year, and then I became his #1 fan in the preseason. I love hearing what Wingfield said about Patrick McMorris. With that safety room in flux a little bit, with a lot of question marks. I think Patrick Morris has bigger upside than Elijah Campbell. And in year one, he's going to be ahead of Dante Trader Jr. I mean, are we going to see another big preseason from Patrick Morris? Just this time he stays healthy? I hope so. Because I think they hit something with that kid. I really do. I really do. So, man, that is great stuff. Great stuff to hear. Now, let's go over to the Miami Herald and what they said about today's. See, this is what the media. This is what I like the media to do. Just report from camp. Report from. Do this. I don't need analysis. So here's news, notes, and observations from Dolphins Tuesday practice session in rainy conditions. After throwing a couple of ducks in the previous practice session open to reporters, Zach Wilson threw an interception in Tuesday's session, but also had some very good moments. Ife Melifanu, a front runner to start at safety, made the pick on a Wilson pass intended for Tariq Black. In a real game, the play likely would have ended with a sack. Second-year edge player Grayson Murphy had another would-be sack of Wilson. Later, Murphy had a free rush on Tua Tagovailoa, resulting in another sack. On the bright side, Wilson showed good zip on a pass to rookie tight end Jalen Connors and connected with Black on a sideline throw, which required a nice toe tap from Black. He also hit Tanner Connor for a third down conversion, and later he connected with D. Eskridge for a 40-yard completion over Isaiah Johnson. Rookie quarterback Quinn Ewers, who we hear has had some good moments in the past 2 weeks, had a pass deflected that was intercepted by North Carolina State rookie linebacker Eugene Asante. Ewers developed good chemistry with rookie receiver A.J. Henning in 7-on-7 work. So based on what Travis said, and now we're seeing here, Henning is really putting in work with those backups, eh? Former 7th-round pick Tajay Washington, who missed his rookie season with an injury, dropped a pass from Tagovailoa, play that should have been a 20-yard reception. That's not good. An end around Jalen Waddle was eaten up by Terrell Dotson, limiting the play to a short gain. Running back Ollie Gordon had an impressive cutback for a first down run. Dolphins have been rotating cornerbacks, trying to give a fair look to everyone. Kendall Sheffield, signed after trial in May, has looked promising. Some attendance notes, while reminding that participation this week is voluntary. Jonnu Smith and Zach Steeler remained away from the team, which is often the norm for players seeking more money. Wow, so there you go. Is Zach Steeler seeking more money? Neither Steeler nor his camp has confirmed that his absence is related to his desire for a better contract. He signed a 3-year extension in August 2023, one that could pay him as much as $38.3 million and runs through 2026. Smith wants a new deal, and the sides have had discussions. Both players are represented by Drew Rosenhaus. Tyreek Hill continues to work his way back from wrist surgery. On Tuesday, he put on his wrist brace and started sprinting, with trainers overseeing it. Bradley Chubb hasn't played a game in 17 months, worked with the starters, and had a sack. Jalen Phillips, working his way back from September's knee injury, didn't do 11-11 work. Cornerback Cam Smith was in attendance. Last Wednesday, he left practice holding his leg after being beaten badly by Waddle on the long pass from Tagovailoa, but he later returned in that practice session, and he seemed fine today. Tanner Connor had a nice catch on a slant route from Tagovailoa. Jalen Wright became immersed in a mild shoving match with safety Ashton Davis at the end of one play. Wright was helpless trying to pick up a blitzing Willie Gay Jr. who would have sacked Wilson in a real game, but Wright rallied with a 10-yard run on a good block by number 3 tackle Larry Borum. So that tells you right there, they're using Larry Borum at tackle right now. You know, the media is not allowed to tell you where they have people lined up. But if they're saying number 3 tackle, they're telling you that he's taking reps at tackle. Outside linebacker Chop Robinson wore the orange jersey given to the best player in the previous day's practice session. Tagovailoa wore that orange jersey the previous day. Robinson made another good play Tuesday, beating Addison West and forcing a throwaway. Alexander Madison dropped a 5-yard out pattern. And rookie 7th-round pick Zeke Biggers stuffed Gordon in the backfield for a loss. Biggers, fittingly, is the team's biggest nose tackle. Dolphins list him at 6'5" and 321 pounds. Benito is the shortest at 6'1" and conservatively listed at 335 pounds. Austin Clark told you not to pigeonhole these guys as nose tackles, and here we go again. Totally just throwing out the window what Austin Clark told you directly. But I want to talk about the corner room a little bit here. I've been telling you that I think Kader Kohou is going to be getting more work on the boundary. from what we've seen now over 2 reviews and recaps of what happened today, especially from what Wingfield said, it really does seem like Kohou's going to be getting a lot more boundary reps. And I even theorized that maybe Artie Burns is the one who slides in, taking majority of the slot work right now. So that's interesting stuff. All right? I mean, we'll see how it all plays out, and we'll see where it goes. But for me, man, I don't know. I think this is, I think this room is going to be, I honestly think this room is going to be a lot, man, I just think it sounds like, it sounds like, I don't know. It sounds like, something's going to get worked out here. And it sounds like this team is buying in. And it sounds like this secondary room, they're coming together cohesively and that they believe in each other. So I find that very, very interesting. Very interesting. All right. Now, let's keep it going here. OTAs, and here is what is going on right here. All right. The Dolphins took the field on a rainy Tuesday for their second round of OTAs. All right, here's what was observed during OTAs. There was consistent rain during the workout, but no lightning, so the Dolphins, who often work in the practice bubble during the rain, stayed outside. So there you go. For those who think this is a culture change thing, that seems doubtful. It's more likely the team wanted to practice in wet conditions, especially with 2 September home games on the schedule. Tyreek Hill wasn't wearing a wrap cast on a surgically repaired wrist, and he worked with the trainer on the side. Tua Tagovailoa, who some have suspected of having issues throwing a wet ball in the past, didn't have any problems throwing the wet ball Tuesday. Among those not there today, Zach Sealer, Jonnu Smith, Jalen Ramsey, and James Daniels. Kenneth Grant did good work. On one play, he admirably fought a double team by center Aaron Brewer and guard Keon Smith. So they've got Keon Smith at guard? They don't even have Keon Smith at tackle. They got him at guard? Grant has shown good things in OTAs. Rookie guard Jonah Smith continues to show good awareness and agility during individual drills on 11-11. Smith listed at 6'5", 336 pounds, but for some reason he doesn't look as big as they say. Center Liam Eichenberg or right tackle Austin Jackson when he stands next to them. Grayson Murphy had 3 sacks Tuesday. Murphy sacks on consecutive plays in 11-11. On the first, he put a nice move past Larry Borum. The play resulted in an interception by Melifanu. The second play, he moved past guard Braden Daniels. His third sack came late in practice on 11-11 play. Jackson, who had knee surgery, wasn't wearing any type of sleeve or supportive device on his repaired knee. As a reminder, there's no tackling. Players are only wearing shorts, jerseys, and helmets. Wide receiver Tajay Washington was wearing a red non-contact jersey Tuesday, just as he did in the first round of OTAs. His injury hasn't been disclosed. Washington dropped a catchable pass from Tagovailoa during 7-on-7s. Tagovailoa overthrew running back Devon Achane in double coverage on the first play of 7-on-7. Edge rusher Jalen Phillips worked in 7-on-7s, unlike last month's OTAs. Zach Wilson had a nice throw to tight end Jalen Connors on the skinny post in 7-on-7s. It was Wilson's second consecutive nice throw and a nice route. There we go. All right. Cam Smith, who needs to make an impact, bit on a double move during 7-on-7s. Smith had a low-key performance Tuesday. Edge rusher Bradley Chubb, who's recovering from a season-ending injury, kept making plays. He used his first step to elude a blocker and hold a pass play to a 1-yard gain in 11-11s. Edge rusher Chop Robinson, last year's first-round pick, who wore the orange jersey as the player of the day from Monday, made a few plays Tuesday using his quick first step. On one 11-11 play, he seemed to be held by Jackson and might have had a sack on Tagovailoa. Rookie running back Ollie Gordon had a nice run between the tackles that showed burst. Gordon's size and speed are apparent. Tanner Connor, one of the most knowledgeable and athletic players on the team, had a nice 25-yard reception from Wilson in 7-on-7. Connor has an opportunity to emerge with Smith absent while in a contract dispute. Guard Keon Smith, who missed last season with a knee injury, has been getting an extended look during OTAs and has performed reasonably well. Inside linebacker Willie Gay Jr. blew past a would-be interior offensive line blocker and a would-be running back block to sack Wilson in an 11-11 play. Gay showed impressive speed and tenacity. One snap later, the interior offensive line got itself together and cleared open a hole for running back Jalen Wright, who had perhaps a 20-yard gain. D. Eskridge blew past Isaiah Johnson for a 35-yard gain on a deep pass in 11-11. Cornerbacks had a rough day, even though wide receiver Jalen Waddle didn't run many plays. Eugene Asante had a dramatic interception on the final play of 11-11s, taking the deflected pass almost the entire way on an ill-advised pass from rookie quarterback Quinn Ewers. So, again, look at, what did he say? The cornerbacks had a rough day, even though Jalen Waddle wasn't really out there very much. But let's talk about Willie Gay. He was a consistent theme in all the recaps. And I started off the show by talking about how I love the depth at linebacker much more than what it was heading into the start of season last year. I think the depth at linebacker is very, very good. Very good. I'm very impressed. I love, man, I think we got something in Willie Gay, man. I wanted him in that draft. Man, this is good stuff. I love it. So that's what went down at OTAs. Now, as of about 18 minutes ago, Adam Schefter reported back in it. The Steelers renewed conversations today with Dolphins tight end Jonnu Smith, who is seeking a contract. The trade between the Steelers and the Dolphins is still alive, per source. So, we've gone from this, a lot has changed in less than 12 hours. This went from earlier this morning, the report I showed earlier, that they were not expected to trade for Jonnu Smith. That was at 9:35 a.m. Now at 5:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, according to Adam Schefter, the Steelers have renewed conversations today over Jonnu Smith with the Miami Dolphins regarding a potential trade. So, it's something to keep an eye on. Again, McDaniel said he wants Jonnu in Miami. The Dolphins have been watching their pockets this offseason. We'll see how this works out. This is very, very interesting. I mean, this is just one thing after another here. This is like, man, I don't know. We'll see. We will see how it all plays out, but man, if they're renewing trade talks, they must not like the number he's talking about in an extension. Clearly. And on the flip side, the Steelers are clearly looking at the market and not liking what they're finding. I think it's, they want to pair someone with Metcalf. You already have Pat Freiermuth. So what are you going to just run? A bunch of 12 and 22? Is that what they're just going to do? Two tight end set with Freiermuth and Jonnu and then DK Metcalf? I mean, man. And if they're not trading Pat Freiermuth, they're probably going to go Arthur Smith loves the 12, right? So I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's what the plan is. Arthur Smith loves his two tight end sets, and that's probably going to be what they're going to do if they acquire him. I mean, here we go. In the morning, we hear they're not going to trade for him. OTAs day 5 happens, and what? He doesn't show up. They're negotiating. And then now the workday ends and trade talks have reopened. That's crazy. They must not like the number he's throwing. I don't know. I hope this gets worked out. McDaniel wants him here. We saw McDaniel's power last year with getting people paid. Have they stopped that? I don't know. But if McDaniel wants him here, I don't know. We'll see. So something to keep an eye on. All right. Tomorrow, I will have another show dropping with you. It should be with Tobin from Tobin and Leroy. So be on the lookout for that. And hey, man, we're back at it. All right. So a lot more content coming your way. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. If anything happens with Jonnu, expect me. All right. Fins up all day, every day. I will see each and every one of you on the next one. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all later.